Okay, in this video I'm going to try to hook up my app to an API where I can pull in weather data. This is definitely more complicated than anything I've done in any of the previous videos, so we'll see how far I can get in one. If I need to break it up into a couple different videos, that'll be fine. I did a little bit of research before this video on different weather APIs, and one I settled on is just weatherapi.com. It looks like it's relatively straightforward to use. There are some downsides. You can't get too far of a forecast into the future on the free tier, but that's okay for now. I'll use the free tier and just get the forecast for the next couple days, and maybe I'll pay for a higher tier down the road. This is the home page. They have documentation, but what I have actually found to be the most useful is they have this interactive API Explorer. You enter your API key here. I have one. We'll deal with that in a minute, but for now I'll just make up an API key. Want it to be HTTPS, I think. JSON's fine. Location, I'll say Chicago, just because that's where I live. And then we want it to be a forecast. We're looking into the future. And then we can look at, say, the next 3 days if I'm going on a 3-day trip. Show response. Here's the API call. Obviously, we're getting an error response because I just made that API key up. But this is really what I wanted, was how to make the API call. Looks pretty straightforward. So I think the next question, and really this is going to be a question for Claude, is I think you need to store your API key somewhere outside our app.js file, because I don't want you to be able to see it, but then also if this is up on GitHub or wherever, don't want people to be able to see the API key. So I believe the best practice is to import it from another file, but I really don't know the details of that, so I am going to ask Claude. Okay, hopefully that makes sense and we get a straightforward, simple answer. Okay, yeah, never store API keys directly in the source code, especially if you're going to push it to a public repository. That makes sense. For development, create an m.n file, add this file to get ignored to prevent it from being committed. In the .n file, you can store it. In create React app environment, variable names must start with. Okay, interesting, okay. And then process.n.react app, okay. For production, you would set it there separately. Okay, we'll get to that later when we actually put this into production. Okay, so let's see if we have a, because I think there may be a .env file. Maybe not. Nope. Okay, let me ask Claude if it should be in this. I think it should probably be in the source directory. But let me just ask Claude. Should not be in the source directory, in the root directory. Okay, that was weird. Okay. So let's go back up here, and we are going to call this. It's got to start with React app. And I'll call it weather API equals, and then I will go get the API key, paste it in there, and then meet you on the other side back in app.js. Okay, I saved it in the .env file, and now I'm back in the app.js file. So we are going to use this right here to grab that API key. So const, I'm going to call it weather API key. I don't like the way that looks. I will just call it for API key for now. Equals process.env dot react app, and I called it, react app, and I called it weather API. Okay. I don't know if process, I don't know where that comes from. We'll see if I need to import anything. Okay. And then my next question is, because really I don't know how to do this, how do I make an API call inside or from my React app? Okay, let's see here. You can use the built-in fetch function, an Axios third-party library. I think I like the idea of the built-in, so let's take a look at that. Actually, we want to do this inside the submit function. So let me do this. I don't think we need to actually use the use fetch, or sorry, use effect. I think we can just use this. Yeah, let's give that a try. The API was here. Copy that. So that's gonna be here, and we're gonna have to concatenate. So it'll be like that. Let me create some more room here. So the key is not this one that I made up earlier. It is that API key. And then the Q is for the location. It was Chicago when I used the little API Explorer. Now it is going to be our state variable destination from the form. And then days for now, I'm just going to leave as 3. We'll deal with that later because we're going to do some logic around how many days based on the dates they enter. For now, I'll just leave it as 3. For now, I don't need the air quality and any special weather alerts, although that might be nice to add in as we're kind of creating the weather summary for the trip. So let me go back here. Oh, okay, I see. Here, they're getting a JSON response, and then they're setting a state variable with the results. So let me create a new state variable called JSON response set JSON response equal to use state, leave it blank. So now that should get set. Actually, we want it to be set JSON response. Okay, if there's an error, it looks like the console will log it. Okay. Now, one other thing I want to do is, let's just display the JSON response. So I'll create another div down here. I guess I can just do it in here. I can maybe put a break and then put the JSON response here so I can actually see it in the browser. Okay, let's take a look. Let's say I'm traveling to Chicago. The dates don't really matter for the logic yet, but I will enter some dates. Say we're going from the 14th to the 21st of August, and then we will submit that. And we definitely have an error. Let's see. Okay, so I was just wrestling with this for quite a while. I couldn't get my API key from the .n file. It was because I needed to restart the development server. So good to know, when you create a .n file, you gotta restart the development server. So now, let's see if we can actually get this JSON response here to display. Okay, so let's say we're going to Chicago. The dates are whenever to whenever, submit. Okay, let me ask Claude about this error. I try to display my JSON response. What is causing the error? So it looks like there's a stringify option. Let's try that. So JSON.stringify JSON response. Let's just try that. Okay, that looks more promising. So the location, the name is Chicago, the region's Illinois, the country's the United States, latitude and longitude. Okay, forecast, date, that is today's date. The max temperature in Celsius, the max temperature in Fahrenheit, the min temperature Celsius, min temperature Fahrenheit. Okay, this looks like the API response. It's quite a bit because it's multiple days, and I think it's probably giving, yeah, it's giving hourly updates. So that's the forecast on the 7th at 9 a.m., the forecast on the 7th at 10 a.m. Okay, so we got it to work. I'm gonna have to, in future videos, go through this and kind of extract what it is we want to use for purposes of summarization. This will be a nice way to look at the JSON object if I can make it prettier, print prettier. So let me see if I can do that. Okay. This looks like it should be relatively easy. The object, a replacer function, number of spaces to use for indentation. We wrap it in the pre-tag to preserve the formatting. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, let's just try that. Boom. That is better formatted indeed. This is going to be great. Going to be able to grab all the data out of it that we need. Okay, I think I'm going to call it there. It's a little bit more of a struggle than I was expecting, but that's okay. Got through it. Learn to use the .n file, learn to make the API call, and learn how to format the JSON response that we get from that API call. So next up, we're going to start working through the logic of handling all that data we get back from the API call. So I'll be doing that probably in the next couple videos.